everybody, it's Alex at Motoroso.com. In this video, we're going to be taking a close-up look at the Fox Performance Elite 2.5 DSC adjustable coilover shocks for the 6th generation Bronco. Now, this has been one of the most hotly anticipated suspension product releases in the industry for the 6th gen Bronco. We've been waiting nearly 2 years for Fox to release these, and they've just hit our docks, and so we're able to finally make a video about these, as well as we've got a handful of them in stock for both 4-door and 2-door at aggressive prices to get these onto your Bronco. As usual, we'll put links of everything we talk about in this video in the description. Those links will take you over to Motoroso.com, where you can shop with us, and if you really appreciate the videos that we're making, please do shop with us. That's the only thing that supports what we're doing here. There you can also reach us on live chat or call us toll free at 833-MOTOROSO. We love helping our customers plan out their Bronco builds. Now, we've made quite a few other videos about suspension for the Bronco, including the King Shocks, FabTech, Beltec, and Eibach, all of which are great products. But much like the King Shocks, these 2.5 DSC are really the top echelon of performance for the Bronco, and it's really for people that are planning to take their Bronco off-road and really put it through some tough terrain. Now, we also made a video about the Icon Vehicle Dynamics CDEV system. Now, this is an electronically dampened shock that has an onboard 6-axis G meter that's pulling in data about what's happening in the suspension, and then makes real-time adjustments to the compression damping of the shock electronically. We think this is probably the most technologically advanced suspension system in the industry. Very cool stuff. But these 2.5 DSCs, these are at the top of the pile of your traditional adjustable analog coilovers. Now, before we dive into all the dorky details, let's talk about why Fox sits at the top of this pile. First, they're one of the largest manufacturers of high-performance suspension products in the world, and they've earned that success by developing and testing their suspension in some of the harshest racing conditions in the world, and then trickling that technology down to more attainable consumer products like these for your Bronco. And their product support is also considered to be some of the best in the industry. They've got extremely quick turn times on services like shock rebuilds or revalving should you need it. And that's really important when you need to get these things serviced, that's not a huge process. Now, just like King Shocks too, they've been supporting and developing trophy truck race teams, and they have countless wins and championships under their belt over the years. So these guys really know what they're doing. Secondly, they've got tier 1 supplier relationships directly with Ford Motor Company. And so they've been supplying their live valve technology, which is incredible, for the new F-150 Raptor, the Bronco Haas 3.0, and the new Bronco Raptor. And they were involved in the very early days of the development of the Bronco, well before any of us even knew it was coming out. So they've had tons of time to test and tune and get this product just right. Now, subsequently, because they're such a large company, because they have those tier 1 supplier relationships, they've been so busy putting suspension on OEM vehicles that it's taken them this long to get this product out here, but you know this thing is set up perfectly. Now, the dorky details. The most important feature you need to know about these 2.5 DSC shocks is the DSC. That stands for dual speed compression. Now, while a lot of other shocks in the industry are not adjustable on the damping settings at all, or the King shocks have a single compression damping adjuster, these offer a dual speed compression damping adjuster. And that means they have high speed compression damping and low speed compression damping adjustments. Before I explain why that matters, if you're not familiar with compression damping or damping in general, what that means is that inside this shock body, there's valving that sits inside the shock oil, and that valving controls how fast the shock can move through its compression cycle and its rebound cycle. Now, this matters because if you set your compression damping up to be firm, you're going to have a pretty bumpy, stiff ride, and it's going to handle in the corners fairly nice. But if you hit a nice big hit on the trail, it's not going to blow through the shock travel and bottom out. Now, if you have a softer compression damping setting, well, it's going to be smoother and more compliant and soft and smooth on the road and on the trail, and better for slow rock crawling situations. But if you hit a really big hit, you might run the risk of blowing through that travel and bottoming the shock out. So you need to find a balance of those two. Now, it gets a lot more technical the deeper you go, but at the basic point here is that the dual speed compression is valving inside the shock that responds to high speed events differently from how it responds to low speed events. And I'm not talking about the speed of the vehicle. I'm talking about the speed of the compression cycle of the shock. To illustrate my point here, imagine you're driving 15 miles an hour along, let's say, a nice fire road, okay? And it's a little bit bumpy, but it's just undulating smooth. You're going kind of up and down, and the shock, responding to the weight of the vehicle, is kind of moving through its compression cycle slowly. That's your low speed compression. Now, you haven't changed your vehicle speed at all, 15 miles an hour. Let's say you hit a pothole or a washout or a rock that's in the trail that you didn't drive around. Now, that's gonna, even at 15 miles an hour, be a pretty serious hit that's going to send the shock through its compression stroke much more rapidly, and that's your high speed compression. So the reason this is so beneficial is that it's nice to have your low speed damping set a little softer so that you can cruise over, small bumps very, very smoothly, and it's a very nice, compliant, comfortable, smooth ride both on and off road. But then to have your high speed compression damping set a little higher so that if you do encounter or want to encounter any major hits, you can just point the Bronco at it and it's going to eat it up without worrying about blowing through your travel. So versus a single speed compression damping adjuster where you basically have to just choose firm or soft, this is going to be a little bit more balanced all around and just give you the ability to tune it exactly the way you want it to feel. Now, in addition to the damping performance, these shocks are going to grant a very large increase in overall wheel travel on your Bronco also. By utilizing a remote reservoir, they've been able to relocate the shock piston into this reservoir and free up the shock body for overall stroke length increase. And what that translates to is your wheel being able to travel much further in its stroke. So you're going to go from 8 inches of front wheel travel on a stock Bronco to 11.5 in the front with these shocks and 10.5 inches in the rear, which is a 40% increase in overall wheel travel, which is a game changer in off-road situations, especially rock crawling. There is one other adjustment available through these shocks, and that is ride height. And that's something you're going to find in lots of other coilover shocks as well. And that's simple. It's just a spring preload collar adjustment that as you tighten that spring preload collar, it's going to push the Bronco up in its lift. And if you loosen it, it's going to bring it down. Now, it's going to be about a 1-inch range of adjustment. Now, how much lift you're going to get out of this Bronco is going to depend on the Bronco you're starting with. If you have a base Bronco that does not have the Sasquatch, and I don't mean base, sorry, but if you have a non-Sasquatch Bronco, then that's going to be a 3 to 4 inch ride height increase in the suspension. Now, if you're starting with a Sasquatch Bronco, which is already 1 inch higher in the suspension than a non-Sasquatch Bronco, then that's going to be a 2 to 3 inch increase. And I'm going to reiterate here, whether you start with a non-Sasquatch Bronco or a Sasquatch Bronco, once you put these shocks in, the result is exactly the same, and you're going to have plenty of room to then fit a 35-inch tire or a 37-inch tire. Just know that with a 37-inch tire, you may have to do a little bit of cutting, trimming, or grinding, which is totally normal, just to make sure it doesn't rub at full articulation. Now, in order to get the performance gains that I've talked about, you do need to pair these shocks with a replacement upper control arm in the front and trailing arm in the rear at a minimum. The shocks are going to change the geometry of the suspension and the way that it sits, and the stock upper control arm, especially in the front, is really not made to go to those angles, and you could run into issues where you might even break that upper control arm, which would be a bad situation. You don't want that to happen. But specifically, you're not also going to get all the potential performance gains because it's not going to be able to move as much. So you want to get a replacement upper control arm, especially in the front, and the trailing arm in the rear to make sure that the wheel doesn't sit too far forward in that rear wheel well. And there's lots of options out there for control arms, and your main decision is going to be pretty much, do you want tubular steel or do you want billet aluminum, and what color do you want? Now, tubular steel control arms are going to be the cheaper of the two options, and they're pretty much readily available, and most are designed for a 3 to 4 inch lift to work with shocks like these. And there's brands like FabTech, Camberg, or Evo Manufacturing are going to get the job done pretty nicely. But for most of the people that we work with that are spending this much on suspension, they're going to want to go with the billet aluminum products. And there's quite a few options out there, but for the most part, they're lighter, stronger, and they're going to offer more adjustability. And this is okay too, they look the best. Now, we're a really big fan of Baja Kits products, and we made a separate video about their control arm set for the Bronco. We'll put a link to that right here and in the description of the video. Those are really sweet. Now, we also like the Icon Vehicle Dynamics billet control arms because they look great, perform well, and they are a solid 20% cheaper, making them the most cost-effective option among the billet control arms out there. And then there's other products from brands like Camberg and Kibitech as well. Pretty much all of them are going to do the job. Just pretty much got to choose what's going to work right for you. And we're more than happy to help you with that. If you call us at 833 Motoroso, we can help guide you towards the right products that are going to be right for your build and your budget. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to put links to everything we talked about in the description of this video. And those links will take you over to Motoroso.com where you can shop with us. And if you find this video helpful, please do, because it's the only thing that supports what we do here. And why shop with some big mega retailer when you can get great customer service with us and pay the same prices? Now, one of the other things that sets the Fox products apart from other brands is that they've actually developed a version for the 4-door Bronco and the 2-door Bronco. Now, a lot of other brands just have one version, and it's basically a balance between the weight of the 4-door and the 2-door, and it's acceptable. I'm not saying that's a problem or not acceptable, but for Fox, that was not to their satisfaction. So they developed a separate system for the 4-door weight, and it has different weight springs and valving than the 2-door kit, for example. So what you know is that when you put on the 2-door or the 4-door version, you're getting the perfect setup and the best possible result. Now, a big reason why they had to do this, after talking to Fox engineers, is that they found in testing that the rear end of the Bronco was a little bit oversprung. And we figure it's probably because Ford figured people might put some weight in the Bronco. But being oversprung through corners, it means it can hop a little bit and it oversteers a little bit too easy. Now, as fun as that is, they've designed this to give you better performance in the rear, keep that rear end stuck to the ground and pointed in the direction that you intend. So in addition to all the great features and specifications I've shared here, you're also going to see the kind of motorsports grade technology and materials that you would expect from a company like Fox. First of all, the shock body is a 2.5-inch shock body, allowing for a hefty amount of shock oil, smooth operation, and minimal friction. You've also got the shock body being made out of 6061 aircraft grade aluminum that's been hard anodized. So it's light, strong, and tough and durable to keep them looking fantastic. The shock shaft itself is a 7/8-inch chrome-plated, cold-hardened steel, and that's going to be strong, durable, and that coating is really important because it's going to help resist pitting. And pitting is when you get a sharp edge on that coating and it can destroy the seals. So this is going to help make sure that the seals last as long as possible. But when you do need to get the shock serviced, again, Fox does provide that service. You can send these in. They're fully rebuildable. You can have them returned to be just like new, which you won't have to do too often. But when you do need to do it, it's great that that's an option. Now, the bearings also on the mount points, those are PTFE lined, heat treated steel. They're going to be strong, durable, make sure the shock moves the way it needs to. The kit is also going to include these powder-coated steel mounting brackets and these aluminum clamps to ensure a nice clean mounting solution for the remote reservoir in the exact location that makes sure that the hose is run correctly so you don't have any guesswork there. And the last thing people seem to love about these shocks is that the color, the black and gray and a little bit of orange, is a much more neutral color palette. It's going to go with any color of Bronco that you have and be a little more understated versus something like the King anodized blue, which looks spectacular and fantastic, but it doesn't go with every color of the Bronco, and some people, it might just be a little bit too garish for them. So if the 2.5 DSC sounds like a fit for your build and you're ready to treat yourself, I'm going to put a link to the 4-door set right here as well as in the description of the video. And as I've mentioned a couple times, those links will take you over to Motoroso.com where you can shop with us. And if you found this video helpful, please do, because that's what supports what we do here, and we'd love to be able to keep doing it. I have a lot of fun making these videos. I have a lot of fun helping you with your build projects, and we'd like to keep doing it. You can also reach us toll-free at 833 Motoroso. Now, if this is not the right fit for you and you're looking for other suspension options, check out this video right here. It's an overview video that's going to take you through all your options of suspension upgrades for your Bronco. Subscribe to the channel. We hope you found this helpful. Thanks for watching.